The 2 mile, 5 furlong novice chase. An agreement in this with most of the guys here. Current Mighty Potter is your current favourite. I'd say get the prices up screen in a sec. But Dan, to talk to us a little bit about Mighty Potter, you do like him here.
The thing is, I've had a bit of a bone in Mighty Potter this season. I didn't like his chase debut at all. Like, I really thought he looked a bit ungamely. He was very keen. There were plenty of mistakes sneaking in. And I think I unfairly carried that into the Drinmore, despite having rewatched it back. He was far more impressive than I gave him credit for that day. I think it was just that classic, I'd already framed my opinion before the race had even run. I just need to take a step back and that might be impartial because I love James de Burley and really wanted to be on his side here. But having rewatched the Drinmore a couple of times, he really was impressive. Like, there's something about him, the way he travelled through that race. He seemed to take a pull off almost every fence. Like, he may not have jumped very well, but he was just going so well at all stages. And he seemed to have that race in safekeeping from some way. And I think this kind of 2.5 mile trip on good ground is really his ideal conditions at this stage of the game. And for as much as I love James de Burley, I'm struggling to back him against Mighty Potter, given the lack of experience, given we don't know how fresh he's going to be and how keen he's going to be this time. Like, he wasn't that kind of horse over hurdles, or briefly, we only saw him a couple of times over hurdles for Willie, but he wouldn't be able to get away with the same kind of antics he did last time out in a race of this nature. And I just think, considering what Mighty Potter's achieved and the style of it, and given that Gaillard du Mesnil obviously franked that form as well, I thought his price was pretty reasonable. I think may just also be the Willie Mullins factor at the Dublin Racing Festival keeping that up. But yeah, I think Mighty Potter is some solid horse here, especially here, and the price seems to have held up quite surprisingly well.
Yeah, 2.25. James de Burley 4.0. Gaillard du Mesnil 6.0. Kilcourt a bit big price if he bounces back to form 15.0. And look, his form ties in well with Banbridge, Mighty Potter, Donn, and that's the horse you're going for here as well.
Yeah, like, it's Mighty Potter versus Willie Mullins, isn't it? And
True,
like I just thought what he did in the Drinmore was very, very good, as Dan was saying there. Like, he just flowed. He made a fairly significant mistake at the third last. He should have come down, really. He did well to stand up. He kind of seemed to just, I don't know, give a little skip after landing. And Jack Kennedy did well to keep his rhythm going and keep his rhythm, or keep his balance. And he went on and he won really well. He beat Gaillard du Mesnil by 4.5 lengths. Gaillard du Mesnil then went and won the Neville Hotels chase, albeit the race kind of fell apart a little bit, all right. But he's a very good horse, as we know. He reopposes as well on Sunday. And James de Burley is kind of the unknown quantity. I suppose the fact that Willie Mullins ran him in the champion hurdle on his first run for him, that was significant, and that's a measure of the regard in which he's held. But you know, he was keen a little bit at Ferryhouse the last day, but he's a talented horse. And Kilcrut comes into it too. We know how big a bumper horse he was, but just think Mighty Potter, he's solid. He's a Grade 1 winner over hurdles as well. He won the race at Punchestown after Cheltenham last season. He's won his 2 chases. His jumping was good at Ferryhouse the last day. Can maybe improve again. Davy Russell's riding him. Yeah, this is probably a good trip for him for now. For all that, I think he can maybe go out and trip in time, but this kind of 2 mile 5, it's good for him. And yeah, I just think he's pretty rock solid.
Yeah, good case made there. Charlie, it's a no bet for me. I am slightly concerned about the odd mistake he throws in. I don't know what your take is on that, but you do like him here.
Yeah, I think he's a beast of a horse, this, to be honest. Yeah, as in, like, I agree with you. I mean, I think he made certainly one significant error at Ferryhouse, and what was mightily impressive, like, it just didn't even seem to stop his momentum. You know, he was down his nose, and as soon as his head came back up, he's away again. And just like I said, he's got a huge engine. I think if his jumping continues to improve with experience, he's got it all in front of him. And I think the trip is absolutely fine at this stage of his life. And much as this is a race with plenty of quality performers in, I think he's definitely the best of them. And I think he's very, very good, this horse. I'm really, really excited about watching him on Sunday.
Yeah, should be a fascinating race for sure. So Mighty Potter for the guys, agreement with the 3 of them guys. No bet for me. And we're going to move on to the 210 Leopardstown, the Dublin Chase. And Blue Lord is your current 2.27 favourite. Gentleman to me, 7.5. Skull Royale, which I thought was an interesting runner, 11.0. And 21.0 Bar. I'm a no bet. Dan and Charlie are Blue Lord with the caveat of no bet. Don, I was trying to make the case for Gentleman to me, and I just couldn't bring myself to put him up. And then when I saw you put him up in the document, I was raging with myself that there was some case there I just didn't see. So maybe make the case for Gentleman to me.
Yeah, like I mean, you have to forgive quite a lot now this season, and I've been sucked into him on more than one occasion. But I still think there's a top class horse looking in there. Like he's been disappointing in his 3 runs this season, really, but he was so good at Aintree, and I know Aintree form sometimes if you can argue against it, especially if it hasn't been backed up in the interim. But he was so good. His jumping was very good. He beat Edwardstone. Now maybe Edwardstone underperformed a wee bit after the Arkle, but only a wee bit, I'd say. And Edwardstone, as we know, he's almost favourite or joint favourite or clear favourite, depending on where you look for the Champion Chase. And then we're coming into the spring, which is when Gentleman de May started improving last season. The ground, I think the ground is probably key. It's going to be, it's not going to be fast ground, hopefully, at Leopardstown at the weekend. I'm sure it won't be. But we're coming into spring ground now. And I just think that if he can get into his rhythm on the better ground and jump as well as he jumped at Aintree, then I think he can put it up to Blue Lord. Look, Blue Lord is a top class horse. We know that. He's only been beaten once over fences. I kind of thought he was a 2.5 miler, but then he went and won impressively at Leopardstown, proved himself a 2 miler. So he sets a high standard. But yeah, I think Gentleman de May, at some point, he's going to surprise people, and I'm hoping it's going to be on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely want to keep on track, and I may have a small bet on him, but it is a no bet for me. Guys, I'm happy to move on from Blue Lord if we want to talk about the Irish Champion Hurdle, because I think that's a fascinating race.
Just one horse to mention, Dan, who I think is not with a view to this race, he's got no chance, but for the future, is Fast or Slow. He's just fascinating because he came into this season not a novice chaser because he won a 3-year-old chase in France, and it's just become so hard to place. But you go back to last season, he was second in the Coral Cup off 141, second at Punchestown off 144. He was basically forced to run the John Durkin on his second ever chase start. He's first in Ireland, last time out behind Galopin de Champs. Look, he's going to get outclassed and outpaced here, but this will be his 3rd run over fences. And obviously then we're starting to look towards handicaps with him, and he might just be one who might pop up in something like a plate, or they might have had a view to a race like that down the line, given his Coral Cup from last season. So just keep an eye on him, how he performs. I expect him to be well beaten, but if he shows some promise, I can see him turning up and being a key player in a big spring handicap.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe one for the tracker, perhaps. Chanel Farmer Irish Champion Hurdle. We'll take a look at the betting. State Man is around 2.1 currently. Honeysuckle 2.75. Vauban is currently a 5.0 shot, and it's 51.0 bar. Charlie, over to you on this one. This is a fascinating race, isn't it? I mean, just as a racing fan, Constitution Hill will be watching this race. Really looking forward to it, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, whether he'll be that worried or Constitution Hill, if he's watching on, I'm not sure. But it is a belter, as in State Man's looked, I mean, obviously he was very impressive last year in the handicap at Cheltenham, and he's followed that progression on and looked incredibly good. He seems to be just a very straightforward horse that gets the job done, and he's kind of versatile. It looks like it'd be a dream to ride. Obviously, Honeysuckle, they've lost their unbeaten record last time behind Tihupu, who then franked that form and was very impressive the other day. Vauban travelled incredibly strong behind State Man on his first run, and the vibes are sort of lukewarm, weren't they? And you're wondering whether he can come forward. And then Pied Piper and Zanahir, quality performers in their own right, but in theory got no chance this weekend. I ended up, I don't know, this is probably heart rule in my head, because I remember saying earlier in the year that I thought it was ridiculous. Constitution Hill was sort of shorter in the bet than Honeysuckle, the Champion Hurdle, and it looks pretty stupid that now. So, we live and learn in life. But I'm still thinking, it maybe the Hatton's Grace run in December wasn't as bad as it seemed. She travelled strong. She looked like she was coming to win the race, and got done from the back of the last. And I think it's a contest where she hasn't always been at her very best. There was a couple of years ago, Ronald Pump ran her fairly close in that race, and then she sort of jumped forward from there. And so, like I say, it's probably going to look a really foolish selection come Sunday. But I just think you take that run out of the equation. Would she be favourite still? I think there's a strength of possibility that she would be, and so at 3.0, maybe a little bit bigger than that, I'm going to chance her. But I'm really looking forward to this race for loads of reasons. But to see if State Man can just continue that sort of unbeaten march towards the Champion Hurdle, become a really credible contender to Constitution Hill. And also, I'm really intrigued to see whether Vauban can step forward again. I mean, he looked brilliant last year as a juvenile. And it's only really that the vibes were so lukewarm that this wasn't going to be a season and whatever else. But I thought the run at Leopardstown last time was full of promise. I mean, like I said, I'd nearly argue he travelled like the best horse in the race and then just flattened out. So lots of interest. But like I say, Honeysuckle for me, but it's a tentative selection in what looks a Cork renewal.
Yeah, Don, what I'm nearly most looking forward to is seeing this market, because the money hasn't really missed too much on Honeysuckle. If everyone remembers the first champion hurdle, I think she was available 3.5, 3.0 in the morning and went off a very short price. So if the money does come for it may just be sentimental money. It's hard to differentiate the two sides of it, but it's fascinating if she can get close to State Man in the market here.
Yeah, no, it's all fascinating, really. Like from now to post time, and then after post time during the race. But yeah, like I agree with a lot of what Charlie said. Like I think her Hatton's Grace hurdle run this season wasn't bad at all, and I think she'll be better on Sunday. She, like, 2.5 miles on soft ground on her seasonal debut. It may be that just stretches her. I know she'd won Hatton's Grace hurdle a number of times before, but when she won it in 2019, it was soft ground. She already had a run. She won it in 2020. She only just got home by a half length from Ronald Pump. That was on soft ground, over 2.5 miles, obviously on her seasonal debut. And then last year, when she beat Ronald Pump by much further, it was good ground, 2.5 miles. Again, this season, seasonal debut, soft ground, 2.5 miles. I just think the combination of those three factors don't play to her strengths. So, look, she was beaten, and the day was probably going to come at some point. Her shroud of invincibility, that's been lifted. But she's a top, like all she's done, 3 Irish champion hurdles. Only Isterback and Hurricane Fly have won more than 2 champion hurdles. Like, she's just such a superstar mare. And the reception she got last season on the way down to the start before she'd even competed was fantastic. And then coming back, you just love to see that replicated. And I think even this season, there's something about a hero or a heroine who bounces back after defeat. I think it would be even bigger if she could go and win it this season. But look, it's a hell of a race. State Man is very good. He's a county hurdle winner. He's won his 2 hurdles this season. I thought his jumping the last day in the Matheson hurdle was better than it was in the Morgiana. And Vauban, again, agree with Charlie. He ran a big race the last day. He was expected to come on a fair bit from it. And you could see Willie Mullins afterwards. He was nearly happier with Vauban's run than he was with State Man's. I think he surprised him a wee bit. So, look, I know it's hard for 4-year-olds turning 5 when they move into open company, but he was the outstanding juvenile last season, and I think he could get closer to State Man even on Sunday than he did, and therefore shortening the champion hurdle market. But over everything is Honeysuckle. I just love to see her winning again, and I think she can.
So yeah, 2 votes for Honeysuckle. We're Team State Man, Dan. So are we the Grinch? I mean, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, we are. We're here to ruin the party, Dan. That's what we're here to do. It's a fascinating little race. This tactically, it's a bit of a struggle to figure out how this is going to work. Like, Takarengo's in there, but he's also in on Saturday, so he would have been a pace angle, but he probably won't even run. And after that, you're looking at a bunch of horses that there is no clear pace. I just wonder if State Man might be the one to take up that mantle here. Obviously, he raced in a clear second in the Matheson, who's a few lengths off She's Electric, who's just a keen going front runner, but he was clear of the remainder. And his jumping now has got to a point where they might be more willing to do and go from the front with him now. Like, he seems a bit more professional. We know he's got the stamina as well for 2.5. He won over 2.5 at Punchestown as well. And I just love the way the last day, when Vauban came to him, it looked like it was going to get quite close, but he really did just kick away and cleared home quite strongly there. Obviously, hurdles taken out as well. He's got that stamina in abundance. So if he's allowed to dictate what might be a fairly slowly run race, if nothing pressures him, given we know the likes of Vauban and Pied Piper are almost certainly held up. Zanna here won't be able to go the pace. Honeysuckle might pressure him, but it might get a bit tactical there. But if State Man is able to dictate from the front, he might just have first say about when they're allowed to extend, and that might be the difference here. And also, when it gets to this stage, I do just tend to go with the up-and-coming progressive horse. And I love Honeysuckle, I really do, but this might just be a bridge too far against an up-and-coming State Man.
Yeah, I think this year's horse is Statement. So I went a roundabout way of coming back to him on this race. So 2 votes for Statement, 2 votes for Honeysuckle. Vauban probably wins the Chanel Farmer Irish Champion Hurdle. We'll move on to the Tattersall Ireland Novice Hurdle and the Facile Vega race, basically. We'll take a look at the betting. Facile Vega actually drifted slightly, 1.5 since Dex. High Definition, 8.5. In the Pocket, 11.0. Irish Point, 11.0. Dark Raven, 14.0. Ilete Toms, 15.0. Donn, I'm kind of laughing just because of the sheer quality in behind Facile Vega again. So even though 1.5 looks big, you look at what he's up against and you're kind of going, maybe there's a case for someone in there.
Yeah, this is a hell of a race. Like, In the Pocket was very good on his in winning at Wexford first of all, and then winning at Naas last time when they took the last couple of hurdles out. He did well to keep on as well as he did to beat 3-Card Bragg, who's enhanced the form since. Irish Point has finished second, just beaten Marine Nationale in the Royal Bond, was finished second behind Cham Kiley in the Lawless of Naas race, a dual Grade 1 runner-up. Dark Raven was very good in beating Dr. Bravo in his maiden hurdle at Leopardstown over Christmas, and Dr. Bravo has come out since and won at Down Royal. So it's a deep race, and Ilete Town, like, we know how good he is. He's a high class horse, and deserves to get a win like this on the board. But High Definition, I just think he's the fascinating one. Like, his class from the flat, everyone knows, like, he's a Beresford Stakes winner. He was beaten a neck in the Tavis's Gold Cup. He reached a flat rating of 119, which is a hell of a flat rating to take over hurdles. And his hurdling debut, I know he jumped a bit to his right throughout, and that didn't help him. But the way that he kept on was really likable. And if he can just jump a wee bit more fluent, like he was to his right, and he was a bit kind of sticky going into his hurdle, so he's going to have to jump better if he's going to get close to Facile Vega. But yeah, he's just got that back class, and if he can improve again in his jumping, he could morph into a top class hurdle. Look, Facile Vega has done everything. He's won his 4 bumpers, 2 champion bumpers, won his 2 hurdle races, including the Grade 1 last time, and he beat Ilete Tom. And then Ashro Diamond, she's enhanced the form since, won the Sol Arena hurdle last time. So look, he could be a superstar, and he's got the breeding, obviously. But I just think High Definition might give him a race.
And I'll throw one at you, Don, because I'm in full agreement. High Definition without the favourite here. I've put him up for the Ballymore at about 42.0. Just thinking how the race will go. Like you said, if he does finish a second to Facile Vega 3 or 4 lengths, they'll surely reroute him to the Ballymore as opposed to take him on again in the Supreme.
That's it. Yeah, they have that option, don't they? Like, it depends how close he gets to Facile Vega. Like, if he beats him, then he'll go for the Supreme. You'd imagine, right? That's easy. If he gets within a half a length staying on, yeah, if he gets within 4 lengths staying on, Ballymore. But yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, everyone will be like, well done, Dan. He beat Facile Vega. No, it's not good, lads. Charlie, if there was another horse, I'd put up maybe in the without fab market. Dark Raven's very interesting as well, and you like.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you make a really good point, as in, like, you can be fooled into thinking, because Facile Vega is 1.5, this is an uncompetitive race. I mean, it probably just shows the sort of quality and the regard that Facile Vega has, that he is that sort of price in a race with heaps of quality in behind him. And because of the price, I couldn't be with Facile Vega at 1.5 because of the depth of quality in behind him. So the without market for me, and yeah, Dark Raven, I just thought looked very, very good at Leopardstown. Like Don said, the form franked by Dr. Bravo, and he just went through the race with ease, and in spite of the hurdles being out, effortlessly drew clear of a deep maiden hurdle. And like I said, the form has been frank. I can see the case for High Definition as well, and like I said, there's stacks of these in behind it. In the without market would be very interesting. But you got to pick one, and like I say, Dark Raven for me, because I just think he's unbeaten. We don't know the ceiling of his ability, and like I say, I think whatever happens, he's a great performer in the making. And if he can step forward on that hurdle debut, I think he can. I'm not saying he can beat Facile Vega, but I think he can run a massive race, and in the without market, I think he's very interesting.
Yeah, and Woody has said if Facile Vega will be revved up to peak in March. I know all horses will be like that, but definitely is on record saying that about Facile Vega. Anything to add here, Dan? I know it's a no bet for you.
Yeah, I will just go in on Dark Raven. I'm a big fan of the horse as well. Like, I've actually backed him for the Ballymore. Like you've done for High Definition, I'm probably looking for the same result, really. I do think over 2 miles, he might find this on the sharp side. I think they said after his main hurdle, which was impressive, but he did lose his place slightly down the back, and they said, like, I was actually quite happy to see him do that over 2 miles. And it was a similar story in his bumpers. Like, he was a champion 4-year-old bumper horse, the best in the country. The form of those races worked out pretty well, but he didn't do it easily then either. Like, he did come off the bridle, but then all of a sudden he just finds a second gear and just really powers on home. I think stepping up in time is going to be his game. And yeah, I think he's a horse with some ability, but whether quite he's got the speed in the early stages to compete over 2 miles on relatively quick ground, I'm not sure, but I can definitely see him flying home for second. And I hope that's exactly what happens.